Well, just to get really short, as of November the 15th, when they did the final scans at the Methodist Hospital in Houston, Dr. Frost, who is one of the #1 pulmonary specialists in the United States and built out the pulmonary ward in the Methodist Hospital, she looked at all my scans, and of course she said, you know, you shouldn't be alive. My both lungs, when Mary got me to the hospital, were over 50% full of blood clots. And I never did see the scans. I wasn't interested in looking at them. But anyway, she showed them to us and asked me if I knew, and I said no. And she said, well, that should have killed you. And of course, the doctor told Mary the night she got me in the hospital I probably wouldn't make it till morning. And then he walked in when I was conscious and said, oh, I'm looking at a dead man. And I yelled at him and told him to get out of the room. Don't ever speak like that in front of my wife and kids again. You know, it's pathetic what people will do because they have a title. But the long, short story, November 15th, she looked at my scans that they did that day, and she said, my son is a 32-year-old athlete, he's a marathon runner, and he'd love to have lungs that look as good as yours.
Wow.
She says, I don't know how you did, because I was diagnosed on August the 4th with pleural infusion, and for those that don't understand pleural infusion, the blood clots lay against the lining of the lung, and the lining can't get oxygen, so the tissue dies, and so they have to go in and take out part of the lung. And they wanted to go in and scrape in August, and I said, no, I don't need that. And I have perfect lungs. Well, blood clots, of course, they found at the Bite in the Jungle in November of 2010 was Chagas, and I've been all these years undiagnosed. Well, they gave me 6 diagnoses when they quarantined me up at the University of Utah Hospital in January of 2010 with tuberculosis and malaria and Lyme's disease and dengue and Addison's and then finally double pneumonia. And it was the Chagas virus. But it ate a hole in the heart, but it was just a small hole, they assumed. But that's what saved my life, because when the blood clots went through my heart, it went through that hole and it just tore it open bigger. But had it not been there, I would have been dead. So last week of July, in fact, the week after men's camp, I had a stroke, and so Dr. Wenker got me down to MD Anderson, and anyway, so I've just been dealing with a few little idiosyncrasies in life. But the lungs are healed, the hole is healing. I made a new heart formula that you'll all get the benefit of. And my oxygen saturation that was at, and in fact, up until I made the formula at Christmas time, I was on oxygen every day for a few hours. I haven't been on it since then. And, you know, I went and did a dog sled race. Now my oxygen, even up at the ranch, is holding at 95, 96 without oxygen, which I couldn't get it over 90 before. And at 91, they want you on oxygen because the lung tissue will start deteriorating. So it's coming back. And the only reason why oxygen saturation is going up is the hole is getting smaller. The PVCs are getting less and further between them. PVCs, for those that don't understand those acronyms, is post-ventricular contraction on the bottom. Then I had post-atrial contraction on the top. So my heart would do 2 extra beats in the bottom and then give an extra beat on the top. And the heart is really intelligent, and it recognized it's not supposed to do that. So after it do it for a while, then it would just stop to reset itself. And so I'd have to hit myself on the chest, or in one case last year, I didn't do it soon enough, and I lost consciousness and fell on the floor at the table, and the ranch, and Jacob was there, thank God. He started beating on my chest and got it started again. And they life flighted me into the U. But so my chest is okay. But I just share that with you for the simple reason that, you know, it doesn't matter what we have, and there's a lot of people that have a lot worse conditions and dealt with a lot of other things, but it's not a reason to quit. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to slow down. as you know, I came by myself this morning because Mary wasn't too happy that I even came. But anyway, so.
Thank you.
I'm hoping she shows up. Take me home. I hope she'll take me back. Anyway, I put this little presentation together because a little inspiration I had. Find out how this is there. And I thought, I'd start with this. How many of you would like to know how to be successful in 2 weeks?
Yes. Yes.
Only 6 of you. Oh, I feel better now. Well, I did this, and I'm serious about how to become successful in 2 weeks, and the reason is I'd never driven a dog team before in my life. I'd never been on a dog sled except riding in one with the boys years ago, and I'd taken a little tour in the ski resort in Vancouver, Whistler. But never driven dogs. Played with them a little bit, but I called Mitch Seavey, who won the Iditarod, for those that know, again this year. And I said, Mitch, I'd like to try dog mushing. And he says, well, Gary, why don't you come on up and we'll give it a go and see how you do. So I flew up to Alaska on January the 10th. He took me out on 2 10-mile runs. And then Sunday morning at 2 o'clock, we got up and went and hitched the dogs and went out on a midnight run in the dark so I could have the experience of running in the night. And a week later, I was in the race. So I thought, well, if at my age and my health condition, if I can do it, anybody could do anything. So I started thinking about it, because standing on the dog sled going across Big Lake and Yentna River and the different places, I had a lot of time to think. And a lot of those thoughts weren't good thoughts, because Mary said, why are you doing this? You don't have to do it. There's other things you should be doing. There's other things you could be doing that have more value. And she was in a gentle way trying to say, no, don't do it, but she never tells me no. So since I didn't hear the no word, I probably really heard it anyway, I did it. But I looked at the value that it created and the things that I learned from it, and it was extremely invaluable. So I put this together and I just blew it. So I'll try that again. Oh, let's see, there it goes. So if you want to become successful in 2 weeks, capture an idea and dream about it. And for all of you, you're in Young Living, so you've captured your idea. But how many of you really dream about it? And there's different levels of dreaming. And this is where I feel that we make it or lose it, is the level of dreaming, because dreaming is what creates passion. There's excitement and there's passion. And I made a blend, I think, that some of you might have heard about. Live your passion. Okay?
Live with, live your.
Live your passion. For you, it's live my passion. But here's the thing that's really different, and maybe some of you have thought about it, maybe some of you haven't. There's a huge difference between excitement and passion. Excitement's when you go to a pep rally at a football game and you're jumping up and down and screaming and clapping and cheering, and by the time you get out of the stadium, you're already thinking about going back to work. Many years ago, Bill Britt invited me to a couple of Amway seminars, and I call them Amway pep rallies. And you get so excited, but you could sponsor a telephone pole, but by the time you got on the sidewalk, the telephone poles were telephone poles. And there was nothing that went home with you. So I never become part of it because of that. But here's the difference. Excitement stimulates the motors, and it stimulates the adrenals, and it stimulates the thought processes. But excitement's never lasting. Passion is what's lasting. And so excitement is like, how many of you ever seen a propane burner with a pilot light? Okay? Excitement is like the pilot light to the burner. You light the pilot light, but then if you don't turn the passion on, it doesn't ignite. And passion is what carries you and keeps the fire burning after you've captured the idea. So as you're looking at Young Living, look at the level of passion. Because, and if you grade it on a level 1 to a level 10, like pain, and Jared texted me this morning at 4:30 and says, Gary, how you doing? I said, I'm at level 100 plus. And so look at where you're at in your passion. If your passion is a 2 or 3, forget it. Go get a job at McDonald's. You know, it's not going to happen. If your passion is a 5, well, you better start looking a little bit more, because yeah, you could do it, but you're going to just kind of slaughter along with the crowd and not really get turned on. When your passion hits 7, then you're starting to feel the real live vision. When you hit a 10 plus, you'll be a crown diamond in 6 months. Okay? So you have to decide what it is that you want. Mary says, honey, why do you want a dog mush? And I said, I don't even know. I said, I thought it was a good idea. And I got kind of connected to it when I was in Alaska in the 70s, because they just started the Iditarod in 73, and I was there from 75 to 77. And I watched women drive their dog teams to the grocery store and take their kids to school, and they'd only have 2 or 4 dogs on their little sled going. And more women went shopping in Fairbanks with dog sleds than they did with cars in the wintertime. It isn't that way today up there, but it was back in the old days. And so I just thought it really looked fun. And I thought, golly, I'd like to try that someday. Well, that was another lesson I learned. There is no such thing as a someday. Okay? If you want to do something, then you write it down on a day. Don't say someday, because I spent 40 plus years looking for someday. And I woke up a couple of days after Christmas, and I said to Mary, I said, you know what? She says, what? I said, someday just showed up. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm going to go dog mushing. And she said, first she said, are you crazy? And I said, no. Anyway, so I called Mitch and I flew up, and we made 3 little runs, and I brought 8 dogs back to Utah, and I bought an old rickety sled, and I practiced 5 days and got on a plane, went back and got in the race. And so, but it's deciding what you want. And if you want to be a gold all your life, that's fine, because there are a lot of gold diggers. and we need gold diggers. But why do you want to settle for being part way? Why do you want to just go a little ways, or just maybe be happy with silver? There's nothing fulfilling in mediocrity. What's fulfilling is going all the distance. And that's also not only fulfilling, but it's extremely rewarding to go the distance. So the next thing you do is then talk about your idea with the family and friends. So if you want to be a Royal Crown Diamond, then you talk to your family first and get that out of the way, because they'll be the first ones to tell you, no, you can't do it. Okay? So you get that out of the way, and then you go talk to friends, because friends will, hey, that really sounds cool. Yeah, and maybe some of your friends will even say, I'd like to do that with you. If your passion is where it should be, that's exactly what it'll happen, because passion is contagious. And it'll get not only you excited, and the more you talk about it, the more you get them excited. And so I talked about it, and I said, Mitch, because of my condition, the thing that bothers me is, I said, I'm not going to be able to get off the sled and run up the hill beside the dogs when we climb a big hill. And he says, Gary, if your dogs don't take you over the hill, he says, then don't go. He says, I never run up the hill. Oh, okay, so I got a free ride the whole way. Boy, was that ever wrong. So, I'm sorry, but they got so excited that the developer plan got ahead of itself. Study it in your mind. So you look at the opportunity in Young Living, and you think about it. And you say, is this something I really want to do? And is this something I could get my friends and my family involved in? And then your conscious mind is going to say no. They're going to tell you you're crazy. Well, folks, when people tell you you're crazy, that's when your passion level should go up a little bit more, because it's really fun to be crazy. And great things happen when you're crazy. There's no craziness in mediocrity. There's just boredom. So study it in your mind. Look at Young Living. Look at the product. See what product is there that you might like. I think out of 550, you might find a chance you could get really turned on with at least one. And with all the ladies here, I'm sure it's the art program. And with the guys, it's probably the power jives. So you'll find something will turn you on. Then sit down and start developing out your plan. What does that mean? You start fleshing it out. Like, okay, I'm going to start taking the cleansing trio. I'm going to start taking and using the art products and Sheer LeMay. Oh my goodness, my wife thinks that's the best. And when she puts it on, I do too. And so you pick the things that you think you want to start with, and you try them. And then all of a sudden you start getting excited. I had a young man I interviewed a couple days ago, and he said, you know, at first I wasn't too sure about these oils and these things, and he said, but boy, after I used, I think it was frankincense and there was another oil, he says, wow, did that ever change my thinking? And so every one of you had an experience or you wouldn't be here, right?
Right.
Okay, so you choose the ones you've had the experience with. You start talking about them. You start looking at, okay, part of developing your plan is, how do I share these with my friends? How do I share them with my family? How do I share them with strangers on the street or in the shopping mall or wherever I bump into them on the airplane? Okay? You know, I use Shutron on the airplane because it attracts the stewardesses. And they tell me they want it for their husband, and I, whatever. You know, when you get to be my age, you know better. So, anyway, and then you research and you learn all about it. Learn everything you can. So you get the EDR and you study it. You study your products and you memorize it so you can share it with other people. And here's the thing, you're going to say, I've heard this from so many times from the servers, oh golly, you know, when I learn more, I'll share more. Well, when I learn more, I'll start teaching. And I said, you know what? When I learn more, I'll start Young Living. You know, that's what is that? Is an excuse. And what is it creates excuses?
Fear.
Lack of self-identity. Okay? You don't know who you are. And so, you know, but what happens is you'll buy an Apple phone 7, and before you get home with it, you've tried out 16 apps, and you're already calling everybody, telling them about it. And you don't even get a bonus from it. You know? So think about what it is that can excite you and make you go. So research and learn all you can. You know, read. And then take action. Okay? So many of us take so much time thinking about something that it wears us out. And it doesn't happen. So I'm just going to reiterate this again for you. And this is what happens. You think about it and it wears you out. Okay? And all of a sudden the excitement starts to wane because you spent too much time thinking about it. Capture an idea and dream about it. Talk about your idea with family and friends. And of course, I sat down and talked to Jacob and Joseph, and they said, Dad, that's a cool idea. Let's do it. Mom had a little different opinion, but the three men ruled. Okay? And then I talked to Mitch and his wife and learned more about it. And so then learn everything you can. So January 11th, I went to Alaska to learn. And the only way to learn is you just get in and you just start experiencing it. You know, and isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Yes.
They fell in love with me. It was just so special. And then find someone who's successful and watch, listen, and ask questions. You know, quit trying to tell them how to do it because you haven't done it yet. You know, watch, listen, and ask questions because that's your greatest way to learn. And I think, I noticed Mitch kept turning his head for this way, and then he turned his head this way because I was wearing his ears out. I was asking him every question, and I carry a little book about this size that fits in my pocket, and I'm writing as he's answering, because you know what? The sharpest pencil is still, or the dullest pencil is still sharper than the brightest mind. And so write and write and write, because when you're in the heat of passion, you know, you don't always remember things that are being said, because your mind is, how do you know when you're passionate? When your mind is 140 light years ahead of you. And so that's why you write, so you can go back and reflect and keep refueling your passion. And so watch, listen, and ask questions. And then follow their example and duplicate them until you develop your own style. You will never start off with your own style. You'll never start off with your own ideas. You'll never start off with your own way, because you've never been down that trail before. So you don't know what to start with. So you get behind a good leader. There's Mitch right there. And I got behind him, and I just watch him. And when I'd hear him say G, I'd say G. G what? Gee whiz. No, it wasn't cheese whiz. And then he'd say ha. Well, I had a little bit of an edge because of those same terms we use with my horses. And he used another word that was really familiar to me, and that was whoa. But what I learned with dogs is it is not in their vocabulary. With horses it is, but not with dogs. And so watch and duplicate their success. So this was Patrick, when I wore his ears out, then he gave me one of his 20-year employees, and I got behind him and followed him. And same thing, I watch, listen, and duplicate. Follow the examples of your leaders. Everyone in this room's got leaders. Okay, we got a Royal Crown Diamond sitting over here. Do we have another Royal Crown Diamond in here?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Ray, everyone
yes.
raise their hand.
Right here, okay. There we are, yes.
Future, to be honest.
Well, I see everybody as well, right? So I want you all put your hands up. Yeah. All right, follow the example of leaders. And now that doesn't mean leaders are perfect. It doesn't mean they're not going to make a mistake. But if you make the mistake once, then you will know. And then you can change it. And they likely will change it also, because everybody makes mistakes. Get to know your team members and what they need. Ask questions, listen, and show them how much you care. Now, folks, this was a big learning curve for me. Because one of the things when you're dog mushing, the dogs have got to trust you. Because you're the one back there giving them the commands. And you're, in my case, 200 miles inside the Alaska wilderness, and there's nobody that's going to come and help you. You get a flat tire. All right? And so I'm in this pen trying to get acquainted with my dogs, and I'm walking around, here boy, and they're just running around me and not paying one lick of attention. And so I thought, this isn't working. So I just knelt down in the snow, and the minute I knelt down, they come running right up to me. And folks, this was the lesson I learned. Get down on the level of the people, and don't talk over their heads, and don't try to posture yourself that you know it all. All right? Get down on their level and just be there for them. And the dogs came up, and they just started loving me and rubbing on me. And some of them even peed on me. That's another indication that you're part of the tribe. Or the dog team. And then this is another part that's really important. I just love this picture. I believe John took this picture. Develop a relationship of trust. And folks, if you don't develop a relationship, and you have to develop a relationship first before the trust will come. How do you develop that relationship? It isn't on social media. Okay? Social media is your contact point, but that doesn't develop a relationship. Relationship is one-on-one, sitting at the kitchen table or wherever, and getting to know that new person. Spending time with them. So when you tell them, hey, try Ninja Red, they don't question you, they just do it because they've developed a relationship and now they trust what you're telling them. That's what makes it so solid. That's what makes it so solid. You know, unfortunately, I don't know all of you, but I know some of you very well, and I know that you're in Young Living because you trust me. Is that right, Peggy?
Yes.
And so, but the relationship development has to come first. And then you take action. You just go out there and start contacting everybody. And be coachable while you're doing it. Because what I see so many of our receivers, once they get started, then they don't think anybody can teach them anything. And they don't listen, and they offend people and do things, and I've seen it all. But no matter where you're at, be coachable, be teachable, and realize that you gotta be a team effort here. And you gotta hitch up with your people or you're not going anywhere, all right? And let your sideline, let your upline, let your downline. Everybody has something to give and something to share. And so never turn a deaf ear to anyone. And yeah, there are people that will just talk and talk and talk, and they don't know what they're talking about, but you can filter that out. But you know, sometimes if you got the filters turned off, there might be a little tidbit that'll come through and you'll miss it that could be really valuable to you. So listen, you know, and don't be afraid, just do it and trust yourself. You'll make mistakes. I did. This was one of my first runs up at my ranch in Taviona. And I only had 7 dogs hitched up this day, but I didn't know how to drive the sled, and I hit a tree. You know, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just got in and started doing, and learn as you go. You know, if you wait till you know it all, you'll never do it, because you'll still be waiting to know it all. And I hit 2 more trees this day. And I went down in this and up, and oh my goodness, the excitement was getting more and more. Look at the dogs. I'll tell you something about these dogs are born to run. And their identity, their destiny is to run and pull a sled. And when they can do this, they're at the highest level of fulfillment in their life, because that's their DNA and they just love it. And you can see the sheer drop off over there. So put yourself in a place to where if you make a mistake, it'll remind you next time. No, don't be afraid of it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And during this time, I broke that rib right there. You can see it. That one right there. This was 5 weeks afterwards, and right there. You know, this is no reason to stop. There's no reason to quit because you hurt a little bit. Hell, hurting's temporary. It'll go away after a month or 2, or a year or 2. But this is the next thing. You might hear yourself say, I can't do this. How many of you have said, I can't do this? And the minute you say that, you're absolutely right. And that's your first failure. You know, when I had to bend over and put the booties on the dogs, I'd bite on the cheek to keep them screaming. When I had to pull them back and unhitch them, I'd want to scream. When I'd pick up the food bucket to feed them, everything I did. Has anybody ever had broken ribs?
Yes.
You're lucky.
It hurts.
Keep practicing. Just keep practicing. Somebody says, no, I'm not interested. When you go, oh, I just can't do this. So you go over to the next person. No, that's not for me. Oh, I just can't do this. I knew it wouldn't work. I should have listened to my sister in the first place. She said it wouldn't work. She said I didn't have the personality for it. So why am I kidding myself? We let everybody tell us what we can or cannot do. You know, Mary, she says, honey, you're going to go up there and do that with broken ribs. And I says, that's no excuse. You know, she said, well, it's going to hurt. And I said, maybe so. But just drink more Jack Daniels. Now you're ready. You must believe in yourself. Okay? This is so critical. I didn't know beans about dog mushing. I'd had actually 6 days on the back of a sled behind the dogs when I entered my first race. 7 days, I'm sorry, when I entered my first race. But this is the thing that I did know. I knew that I wasn't going to quit no matter what happened. And I knew that I didn't know what I was doing. So I knew the things I knew. And that was I didn't know anything. And I also knew I was taking a big risk because if I rolled over, one of those broken ribs might go through the lung. And I'm out there 200 miles, 300 miles from nowhere. I might even have a heart attack because this dumb old heart isn't working the way it should be. I went through all of the risk factors, and Mary rehearsed them very well with me. She said, honey, what happens if you have a heart attack? And I said, well, there's no better place to die than God's living room.
Amen.
you know, that was not the right thing to say. You know, when you're talking to people, choose your words. And then know where you're going and be ready for what's ahead. All right?
Wow.
So here was my start point. And you see this yellow right here? That's the terrain that I'm running my dogs over. From there to Freddy's Roadhouse, the first checkpoint. And then here's the second half.
Oh my gosh.
From Freddy to Homer checkpoint. This was the halfway, and then we turn around and go all the way back. Look at the elevation changes here.
Wow.
Some of these are a half a mile down from the top end to the bottom of the river gorge.
Wow.
They didn't tell me it was going to be like that. And so, you know, don't spend a lot of time because, folks, when I walked in and I saw that map, my heart leaped in my throat because I thought Alaska was flat. My ranch is in the high country is steep, as you saw. This could become interesting. But that's not where you stop. Make your commitment and don't doubt yourself or you will fail. You set out to go sponsor somebody, you set out to do a meeting, you made a commitment, just do it. And it may not be the best presentation you ever give, it may be the very worst presentation you give, and if it's the very worst one you ever gave, you know you won't have to do it again. Okay? And you'll critique yourself and you'll make notes of what you said wrong or could have said different, maybe been more exciting or whatever. But your first time is your greatest time because that's the beginning of kindergarten. That's your start point. So, man, I just walked up there and I laid my driver's license on the table and I registered and I signed in and that little lady looked up at that old man and said, "You're going to run this race?" I said, "I sure am, ma'am." If you want to succeed, get in the race and don't look back. You just get out there, you put your program together, as I said, you study, you got your idea laid out, you got your presentation ready to share, and by the time you get halfway through your first presentation, you're going to realize it was a mess. But it will be your greatest experience, and you know what? Your first presentation will probably produce one or two new distributors. Because here's what you do. You think you don't know enough. But what you fail to remember is you know more than the person you're talking to. So it's a slam dunk. No matter what you say, you're not going to lose. And you don't have to say a whole bunch. All you got to do is just take the lid off from one of your bottles of oil, if it's peppermint or lavender or Chutron or peace and common, it doesn't matter. People ask me, "Gary, what's your favorite oil?" It's the ones in the pocket at the moment. Okay? And you just take what you got and share it. So you get in the race. And that's Conway Seavey, Mrs. youngest son. That's his wife, Janine, right there. And they're there rowing on. And look at all of my sideline people here. Total strangers. And there I go. I'm in the race. There's no... Now, I'll tell you the part that was a little unnerving. While I was waiting to pull up to the line there, and ignore that slide because it's in the wrong place. When I was pulling up the line, because they spaced us 2 minutes apart for departure, they had us hooked to a snowmobile because those dogs, there's 12 there, and man, you think you're hooked onto a D8, and they're just franching to go, and so they use a snowmobile to anchor you until the countdown. And when they say 1, they pull the pin on the tow rope, and it's just, well, the musher in front of me was a 20-year veteran lady, musher, and she rolled her dog sled right there.
Oh,
And I'm thinking, holy crap. She's a 20-year veteran, and I'm a 7-day rookie. And she's maybe 30 years old, and I'm near 68. What chance do I have? I'm going to make a fool out of myself in front of everybody. And you're going to have that same feeling. You're going to think as you go out and you start to teach, I'm going to make a fool of myself. And the minute you do that, you have. And the minute you think it and you entertain it, you've lost. So when you hear, there's those words come in your head, you say, so?
So.
Then I'll get past that part. And you just do it. You just do it. Those thoughts enter my mind. I'm human. Every one of us are human. And we all have those human thoughts. And our conscious mind always wants to shortchange us and keep us in limitation and mediocrity. And that's when you go to your superconscious mind and say, I can do this. And I don't care who's watching, I can do it. And you do it. And yes, it's intimidating to start something new, not knowing what to expect. But you don't stop, you don't look back. And then as you get out on the trail, I'm out here on my own, all alone. And I'll tell you, when I went out of that chute, the first experience, I thought it was going to be my last one. Because the trail came around and it went up over a road. And there was about an 8-foot bank up to the road. And the dogs are fresh and they're on fire and they want to run. And that, going out of that chute, it was 10 below zero. The ground was frozen hard. I couldn't get my brakes to dig in. And those dogs are just booking it. We come up on that ramp, and as soon as I came around the corner, I saw the ramp. I thought, oh no. And I grabbed onto the rail on that sled and hung on. And I was airborne for over 30 feet. That part was okay. It was the touchdown. I almost blacked out. And I heard Mitch's words say, Gary, whatever you do, if you roll over, don't let go of the sled because you'll never see your dogs again. And so I hung on. But now I'm out here and things are going pretty good, and you start thinking, boy, this is stupid. I could have been home with Mary and the boys with my feet up in front of the fireplace, sipping some Zing or some Nitro or some Ninja Red, watching a good John Wayne movie with the boys, all of those things go through your mind of limitation, of what you could be doing if you weren't out doing something crazy. Okay? And going through the timber, now this is just a piece of heaven. So folks, this is the other part I want you to think about. As you're going down your path of building your organization and building your business, you're going to have moments, you're going to think, geez, I'm out here all by myself. Nobody really cares about network marketing. Nobody wants to listen to me. And then you're going to sponsor that diamond in the rough. And you're going to think, wow, this is really cool. This is really neat. So as you're building your business, you visualize those moments. Because if you don't, you're going to start thinking about being out there all alone. And it's unpleasant. It's lonely. It's maybe boring. It's disappointing because you've been told 107 times no. All right? But if you put it 107 times, you won't know if that new diamond was number 108. Okay? And then I'm coming down the hill. And this was my first experience, my first run. And it's cold and it's beautiful. And I reached down and I picked up, I've been out there, it seemed like I've been out there for 6, 7, 8, 10 hours. I've been out there all day long and the sun was starting to go down. And I picked up my GPS to look at how many miles I'd run, and I wiped it with my finger to get the frost off the screen, and it said 5.8. I've been out for hours and I've only gone 5.8 miles. I'll be 16 weeks doing that. So I put it back down and I'm going. I picked it up, rubbed the frost off again. Wow! It was so exciting. I'd gone 6.1. And I thought, I'm never going to get to the checkpoint this slow. And it just didn't make sense because I thought I was going at least 50 miles an hour. And I'd only gone 6.1 miles. And I was feeling like, holy criminy, can I really do this? Because I was a little bit uncomfortable. And I came down this hill, and I started coming up this hill, and look at there. See, Mitch says, no, you don't have to get off. And these were 2-year-old dogs, and they couldn't make the hill with me on the sled. So I'm off, and I'm pedaling, trying to help the dogs get up the hill, and then I get off, and I run away. And I'm thinking, holy cow, I can actually run up this hill. Man, this is fantastic. My heart's loving this. And I run alongside the sled and help the dogs up the hill. No one told me it was going to be this difficult. So when you're teaching your people out there, don't ever plant in their idea that it's going to be hard to build a business. You tell them they're going to have some ups and downs, there are going to be some disappointments, but it's fabulous. You give them the positive right in their door, but don't paint, a grandiose picture without some reality attached to it. Because then they're going to come back and think that you just smoothed them and lied to them. But give them positive. Say, yes, you're going to have some ups and downs. Yes, you're going to have some disappointments. Yes, you might get discouraged, but guess what? That's what my job is. I'm there for you. So when you have a disappointment, when you have ups and downs, when you get discouraged, just pick up the phone and call me. And I'll come and give you some more nitro. And rub some more highest potential on. And I'm coming up the hill, and the sun is starting to set, and I'm coming up the hill, and over the hill, and over the hill, and there's a musher behind me. I wasn't the last one. But when I got here, I saw the cabins over here, and guess what? There was a man standing right here with a camera. John Wetton.
Yay!
Wow, and when I saw John, my heart just... Because I knew that the only way John could be there is he had to be at the check station. And I was coming to the check station. And so, achieving your first goal will give you the fuel to reach the second goal. Make your second goal even bigger. Okay? Arriving Fetish check station 52 miles into the first race, Saturday afternoon, January 28th.
Wow.
And it was balmy. It was 10 below. It was like a polar bear with a coat on. But it was so exciting because I came in here, the race officials come running up to me with their clipboards and that, and grabbing me and congratulating me, and they made such a big deal out of it. I thought, what's the big deal out of this? I'm here, and Mr. Young, congratulations, this is fantastic, and they really made a big deal out of it, and boy, I just felt so empowered. So when your distributors make that executive, when they make it, doesn't matter what level, silver, gold, platinum, make a big deal out of it. Rev them up, get them excited, because that's how they get refueled to go to the next check station. For you, it's the next level. All right? It's all the same. And just really, really make them feel super special and make them feel like they've accomplished the greatest thing in the world. And then I got my straw out. It was time to make the beds for the dogs, pull their booties off, and cook their food and feed them, because we've been on the trail for 5.5 hours to run 52 miles. And what I discovered later, because I said, Mark was there. I said, Mark, I took that dadgum GPS thing and I handed it to him. I said, this thing is worthless. I said, look, I came 52 miles and it says I've only gone 6.1 miles. And he looked at it and he rubbed the rest of the screen off and he said, Gary, that's your average speed. Now, I've been up for over 24 hours getting to this point, with getting everything ready and taken off. And it took me an hour and a half to get the dogs bedded down, get their booties off, get them on harness, cook their food, because you make a fire in your cooker, you melt the snow, get the water, 3 gallons of water boiling, and put the food in so you can thaw it out because it's frozen solid. Then you feed each dog. And that takes an hour and a half out of the 3-hour stop that you've got.
Wow.
And it's going to take you 45 minutes to put booties on, re-harness, and re-hitch to get ready to go. So you deduct that out of 3 hours, that's how much downtime you've got to rest. So I'm back up, hitching and getting ready to go again. And folks, this was another part that was very interesting, is running through the night. You don't know where you're at. And all you've got is a vision of that light right there. And they would reach the front of my dog team, and outside that I couldn't see anything else. Unless I turned my head and looked in the trees, and I did that one night, and it was a little bit unnerving because there was 3 wolves following me. And I thought, Mary's worried about a heart attack. It might be somebody's lunch tonight. But in the dark, and you don't know where you're going, your mind starts telling you things. And it starts again reminding you you're really crazy. You start hearing the words, you don't have to do this. There's other things that you should be doing. There's other things that's more important that you could be doing. Like one of the things she said, Gary, you could be working on your book. And yeah, I can do that, but I can do that stand on a dog sled. You know, all kinds of things start telling you to stop. All the things start telling you that you're crazy. All the things that this is stupid. You know, what are you really going to gain out of this? You know, look at all the other things you could be doing. Like, you know, I could still be working at McDonald's. Or I know I'm going to get a check every 2 weeks. You know, I don't even know if I'm even going to make executive. I don't know if I'm going to make the next check station. And so your mind really plays on you when you're out there. You don't know where in the heck you're at. And it's black and it's cold and you're tired. And the tireder you get, the colder you get, and the colder you get, the tireder you get. And because I've had surgery on both hands, and so my circulation is not the greatest, so my hands have a tendency to get cold easier. And so I was really smart. I invested in electric gloves. And the first half to the first 50 miles, my hands were good. So I switched gloves. I bought 2 pairs so I could charge the batteries in the second pair because I had a battery pack in the sled. I plugged them into, and I put my second gloves on. And I'm going and going and going, and my hands are just getting colder and colder and colder. And then we got down, and we came down off that big half-mile hill I showed you in the paint, and there was a dog sled in front of me. And came around this big S turn to cross the Deep Creek River. And he didn't get his sled in line for the go across the bridge, and the runners caught on the edge of the bridge, and the first 4 dogs were across the bridge, and it just snapped the tow line, and all 12 dogs went into the river. And that's what I saw as I was approaching him. And I looked down the river immediately because the river under the bridge and down for about 150 feet was open, and then it was solid, frozen solid. And I just knew what would happen if the dogs went under that ice, and I just panicked. And there's 2 ice hooks on each sled, and I grabbed them and I threw them down and jumped on them, anchored my team, and I ran as hard as I could to his sled. And he'd run across the bridge, was going down the bank to try to get to his lead dogs that were just floating down the river, and they were just paddling with everything they had back upstream. They were just still going because the current was so strong. And I reached down and I grabbed that tow line and I started pulling, and I was screaming at the same time because it hurt so bad. And I lifted the wheel dogs up on the bridge, but I held him enough. He was finally able to get to the lead dogs and reached down over the bank and grabbed the rope, pulled them up on, and then he let them up the bank, and then him and I together lifted the other dogs, 8 dogs up on the bridge, and we were ready to go. But it was one of those things.
Wow.
So, you'll get into all kinds of situations that you don't plan, you don't think about. And folks, it's not a time again to stop. You know, it was really hurt. And I just bit on my cheek and I pulled because I had one thing. And this is where you learn how to exchange energy. You either focus on the problem or you focus on the outcome. And I was focused on the outcome, and that was saving the dogs. Not the problem, the outcome. So always look and focus on the outcome that you want. And that'll take you past the pain, or the discouragement, or the frustration that will come through all of that. So nighttime is a very interesting creature because it changes everything. You don't know where you're going. I would come to a hill. In fact, I think I got a picture here later showing it. So I'm pulling into the second check station. Did I get tired? Yes, and you will too. You'll get so tired. But I pulled in here, and the race officials came up, and it was the first check station, it was at the second check station. Her name was Jane. And she come up and she said, "Oh, Mr. Young, it's so exciting to see you make the second check station. You're halfway." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "How many years have you been training?" And the way she said that, what does that mean? And I said, "I haven't." She said, "What do you mean you haven't?" I said, "This is my 8th day behind dogs." And she dropped the clipboard in the snow. And she said, "You're kidding." And I said, "No." And she bent down and picked up. She said, "Then why did you pick the hardest race in Alaska to be your first one?" I said, "Nobody told me it was hard." Okay? So don't listen to people. Just do it. Yes, I've not slept well. Next morning, so here I had a 4-hour lay down, and I did get to lay down for an hour and a half, and boy, that was quite a treat after 56 hours. But now let's get the dogs up, get them ready to go. The storm's moving in, and before I was totally hitched, the storm hit. Oof. And it was cold. So I walk and I assure my dogs, you touch them, you let them know. Folks, touch your team. Touch your people. Let them know you're there for them. Let them know that you care. Let them know that you believe in them. Let them know that you know they can do it. And that's all it takes, is just a little recognition, just a little touch. And they're ready to run again. And that's me. There's a musher coming behind, one in front of me. This is not a good place to be when you're going down a hill, because you got to keep from running over that one at the same time, keep from being run over by the one from behind you. And going downhill is not so easy, because you have to watch your distance. You might make sure your sled's not going to run over your wheel dogs. So you got to pace it. So when you're building your business, you got to learn to pace your business, so you don't burn out or you don't run over your new people that you're bringing up with you, and you don't bypass them at the same time. You stay in synchronicity, and your oil for this is harmony. Okay. And then I'm coming into the third check station. Oh wow! And why was I excited here? Because I wasn't last again. But as I came around the corner, there was something else that was even more exciting. Jacob, Joseph, and Mary. Now, here's where it's at. When you reach your first level, whether it's executive, whether it's senior star, whatever, silver, whatever level that you're working on right now, you've set that as your goal, that next level. The joy of accomplishments is what gives you fuel to do it again and again and again. And coming into the finishing line at 4:28 in the morning, there's Joseph right there in the blue coat. And then the officials wanted me to pull up a little further, and I was just about gone as far as I could go. I was cold and tired, but the joy of the accomplishment, and then the joy of the rewards. Crossing the finishing line, 322 kilometers, January 30th at 4:28 a.m. I'm signing off at the end of the race. And then the rewards of sharing your success. And there's your team lined up to congratulate you. There's your diamonds lined up if you're a gold or a platinum or wherever. They're always your upline. You're going to have your sideline. You're going to have your friends and family. It's always going to be there to greet you and make sure you do the same thing for your people. You congratulate them. You hug them. You show them expression of appreciation for their comment. There's Jacob there. He's shivering and shaking because he's so cold. And he's just got out of the motel room. and this is my little polar bear, Eskimo here, Mary. So, and there's Janine Seavey, Mitch's wife. She was there to greet me. And there's Mary. And then payday. I placed in the money in that race. I told Jan and Janae, the team back home, I said, I found a new career. But do you quit there?
No.
When you have an accomplishment like that, you quit, you sit back, you rest on your laurels, you say, wow, I've made silver, now I can relax. No, I had, actually, I had lay down time over a period of 4 days for a total of 2.5 hours. And I got up the next morning and took the boys skiing because it was Joseph's birthday.
Oh.
You know, we spend too much time in bed. You know? And there's going to be plenty of time to sleep when you have that transition day. Get up and go skiing. And he'd already gone in and pulled his boots off because we had to head back for the ceremony dinner that night. And so he was barefooted. But then what do? You set a goal and get into the next race. Okay? Now this is again, don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. Nobody told me that you're crazy if you run 2 races back to back. And especially as a rookie that doesn't know beans other than how to hook a tug line up and put booties on. But I got in a second race 2 days later. And that's me right there. This is a musher orientation. And they're telling us all the rules. And now there's Mitch's dog truck with Brandon Young Living. And see how calm these dogs are here? There's the booties we have to put on and off 3 times a day. 48 booties. Bending over with 3 broken ribs. And I'm loading my sled and getting ready to go. This is Skylar that works up at my ranch. This is my co-pilot. And then I start taking my dogs out to get them on the gang line, and the excitement when they know they're going to hook up and they're going to run, you can't hold them back. My sled right there is tied to that truck because they will just go. And here's a bunch of other mushers getting ready to go out, and I'm ready to go. And there I am, headed out in the Alaskan wilderness again, just crazy as a coon. But here's another great accomplishment. I did a selfie on the dog sled.
So Gary could go in and tell you more and more races, all right? But he's got a racing schedule today. So,
Oh, are we that
yes,
time?
and so what are your closing comments?
Well, that'll take another hour, so just are you okay with that? No limitation, right? No limitation. Okay. So this I told you I want to show you this picture. This one is really important. Mushing into the unknown. And many of you are going into the unknown. Okay? This was a hill. I don't know what's on the other side of that hill in the dark. And I don't know what I'm going to experience. And folks, it's these times when fear can grab you and say, I can't do this. You know, and there was a little thing that came up inside me and says, Gary, if you go over that hill and you crash with 3 broken ribs, you're going to have a punctured lung. You don't have to do this. Pull it over, hang it up. And at that point, I just put my arms underneath that handlebar, and I jammed my feet on the brake, and I tried to slow those dogs down as I went over the hill. It was a half a mile to the bottom at 30 miles an hour, winding through the trees and the timber. You have all kinds of experiences. Just hang on and go for the ride. Okay? So it's great. That's cooking for the dogs. There's the fire. You melt the snow. This is where I would sleep when I'd get the chance to lay down in the snow beside my dogs. And the coldest night I spent in the snow was 27 below 0. The whiteout, when I could barely see the only 2 dogs in front of me. And we ran for 5 hours in that whiteout through the night and missed the trail 2 times and had to stop and walk and find the markers and turn my team around and go back. Folks, it doesn't matter what you experience in life. You don't quit.
Amen.
If you want success, you don't quit. And you're going to have a lot of times when you're going to think, I can't do this, I can't do this. And the minute you say you can't, if you listen to it, you will stop right there and you will lose. You will lose. Every bit of it. When life knocks you down, roll over and look at the stars. Everything yoga. This is one of the check stations. 8:27, February the 5th, 27 degrees, minus 27 Celsius coming into the Etna check station. Wind 10 miles an hour, colder than sin. Isn't that a beautiful picture? As I'm cooking for my dogs. But I'm still trying to learn how they do that. And you love your dogs. You show them appreciation. You love your team. You take care of them. You show them appreciation.
Gary pets us every day. Found my booties this morning.
This was another great moment coming into the second to the last check station at 6:30 p.m. February 5th. I came around this corner And Joseph come running up to me. Oh my goodness gracious. And Jared, Janae, Matt, Lori, Mary was all there, and I didn't know they were coming. There was only like 3 check stations that actually had roads to them. And it was so great. And even people that you don't know. Here was the last check station. This morning it was 27 below zero. We hit 30 before we got out of the river bottom. And I was cold, and I was tired, and I was hurting like crazy, putting the booties on. And Mary comes over with the phone and says, honey, could you do this conference call?
I'll just say to you now.
You know? And so I said, well, just walk with me, because I got to get my dogs up and going. And I talked on the phone for, it seemed like 10 hours, but it was probably more like 10 or 15 minutes. But you don't say no when it hurts. You just do. And yes, that was minus 32 degrees Celsius, and you would feel like a popsicle. And it's coming through the trees, headed back. And even strangers on the sidelines that I didn't know says, you can do it. Be connected to everybody and listen to them and let them raw you on. But you do the same thing to your people. You can do it. You can do it. And every time somebody gave me a high five from the sideline, it's like I just took on another shot of nitro. And I didn't do it. Froze my hand, lost all the skin off my fingers and thumb, but you know what? I got new fingerprints. My last finishing line. And oh, this was exciting. And I'm told there's Mary, there's Mitch, he greeted me, the race officials, and guess who that is right there?
Jared. Instagram.
You can tell by my picture.
Yeah. And there's my Joseph and Mary, and everybody lined up, and I started getting my hugs. Signing off. There are always excuses and reasons to give up and quit. It is easier to stay in the rut and remain in the struggle of life, trying to pay the bills or afford a better home. It is easy to keep the status quo of mediocrity. Are you taking the path of least resistance? Are you afraid of change? Are you afraid to take a risk? You got to go past all this if you want to be a Royal Crown Diamond. But I know this, if I can do what I just did, and I returned back to Alaska on April the 5th to do a 350 miler. And I'm excited because I'm now qualified for next year's Iditarod run. I set 2 goals for these 2 races. In fact, at the end of this race, I had the officials ask me, Gary, do you know that nobody runs 2 races back to back? I said, nobody told me. Okay, so don't worry about what other people have to say. You do what you want to do. But I had 2 goals. It wasn't to win the race, because I knew as a rookie and only having 7 days on a sled, I wasn't going to beat these 40, 30, 20-year veteran mushers with high-speed dogs. And I'm running a puppy team that had never been in the race before either. So we went in as equals. But I set 2 goals. 1 was to finish, and 2 was to bring all my dogs back healthy. And I was the only musher on those 2 races that brought all their dogs back that they took out.
Wow.
And I finished, and I wasn't the last one to finish on either race. I won.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Thank you, Gary.
Which we will now be late for. But
just
I
wanna
would
say one thing.
like to introduce to you the COO of Young Living, Jared Turner, and have him say a few words.
So, when I started here almost 5 years ago, I heard about him. The Indiana Jones, John Wayne guy who could do everything. And some I was like, I believed, some I was like, that can't be true. And then I worked with him and had amazing adventures. It's all true. Every word of it. And there's a man like him in this generation. And I remember Mitch Seavey, who won the Iditarod, said that they had cast bets before this race to see how far Gary would go before he would stop. They all lost. There wasn't a musher that believed a 67-year-old guy with a heart condition and other stuff you talked about earlier could complete a race like that, let alone two.
The bet was I wouldn't make it to the first check station.
Yep. And when we went to Deshka, me and Matt and Janae, CFO and the legal counsel, where's the CFO? Janae? When we went to Deshka, we couldn't touch Gary. We couldn't help him put the booties on. We couldn't help him feed the dogs. We couldn't help him do anything or else he'd be disqualified. And as a team, we help each other every day as an executive team. We know what he's thinking at every minute. He knows what we're thinking, and that's how we've been able to support all of you and your businesses. But in this moment, it was Gary alone with us standing, and it was the worst feeling in the world.
We felt helpless.
And he was running back and forth. His fingers were freezing. My body was freezing.
We were just standing there, just chattering, we're just watching him.
And
food.
my respect for him just skyrocketed even more than it could have, and I thought, it's a privilege and an honor to work side by side with a man like this.
I just have to pass my love on to her, to you from her. She's probably busy shuttling boys back and forth, but we love you, and we know.
We love
you're
you.
all
Thank you.
winners. You're all winners. You're all Royal Crown Diamonds. Choose it today. Write it down. Live it, breathe it, drink it, sleep it, think it, feel it, and you will be. Okay?
Thank
The only
you.